Would you like to make the announcement?
Yeah. Thank you, Elon. Working with Elon and his team, I'm really excited for our industry and for the Ford customers. We're announcing that in early 2024, all of Ford's existing customers and future customers would have access to 12,000 Tesla Superchargers across the U.S. We're really excited about that. About a year later, we're going to be equipping our Fords when we go to our second generation electric vehicles with the NACS interface. Elon, I want to thank you and your team. It's been great working with you so far, and I'm really excited about what this means. Some of the things that we learned, frankly, a lot of them from Elon and his team is, our industry is kind of obsessed with these huge batteries, and I think that's maybe not the right approach. We should make the battery as small as possible, actually, with a really competitive user experience range, but have like really great fast charging experience combined with that, so we don't have to be driving around, $20,000 of extra batteries for customers. The embedded electrical architecture, fully updatable vehicle, like it's super hard what Tesla's done. And I totally respect them, to do that, to make a fully software updatable vehicle. And we're in the process of doing, but it's super hard.
It's super hard, yes. Well, I mean, Jim, we're happy to be helpful in other respects with, on the software front.
In this video, a huge announcement which took place on Twitter Spaces a few hours ago. Jim Farley, Ford CEO, and Elon Musk announcing that Ford are partnering with Tesla officially, and Ford vehicles will now have access to half of Tesla's Superchargers in the United States. And Ford's next generation vehicle platform, all of their electric vehicles will be using Tesla chargers, aka the plug. This news, big as it is, however, is not the bombshell that occurred during this live Twitter Spaces. Elon Musk dropped a very strong hint with profound implications for both Tesla and Ford that every Tesla investor needs to hear and understand. So make sure you're paying attention. Oh, and while I have your attention, don't forget to check the links in the pinned comment if you'd like more content. I'm posting exclusive subscriber-only content on Twitter. The archives are building up very nicely. Plenty more content to come, and still producing exclusive content on Patreon as well. So check the links in the pinned comment. Let's get into it.
Would you like to make the announcement?
Yeah. Thank you, Elon. Working with Elon and his team, I'm really excited for our industry and for the Ford customers. We're announcing that in early 2024, all of Ford's existing customers and future customers would have access to 12,000 Tesla Superchargers, high-speed Superchargers across the U.S. We're really excited about that. We're ramping production, and we think this is a huge move for our industry and for all electric customers. And then about a year later, we're going to be equipping our Fords when we go to our second generation electric vehicles with the NACS interface. So it's really, Elon, I want to thank you and your team. It's been great working with you so far, and I'm really excited about what this means for customers. We've been talking about this for a while.
This announcement is as big as it was inevitable. As I've said a million times, Jim Farley gets it. Not only does he get it, but he's honest, unlike, let's say, some other automotive CEOs of US-based legacy automotive manufacturers who continue to lie to their investors, deceive the American public, take credit for things they have not done, and accelerate their path toward the inevitable iceberg. Of course, the reason I'm not naming this company explicitly is because I don't want to take yet another dump across the face of Mary B. Esparra and Government Motors, so I won't mention the company or the CEO that I'm referring to. I think I kind of just did. Anyway, this is really big for Ford, not so for Tesla. Tesla have already told us they'll open up their supercharging network. They're already doing this in other parts of the world. But the fact that Jim Farley, Ford CEO, has now publicly announced an official partnership where Tesla Superchargers in the United States will be available for Ford customers to use is huge for Ford. Now, just a quick side note. I said earlier this was inevitable. I mean it. My Tesla valuation model, feel free to fact check me if you've got access to Patreon, includes third-party access to Tesla's supercharging network and has done for some time. I also expected Ford would be the first company to officially take Tesla up on this offer. Why? Well, as I said, Ford actually know what's going on. Jim Farley is willing to say the truth, which is Tesla are way ahead of us and we're trying to catch up. And also their products are great, their technology is great, their costs are lower, and their charging network doesn't suck shit, as opposed to the current and only meaningful alternative. I think it's called Electrify My Arsehole, which, as I've said in the past, usually you pull up to one of the Electrify My Arsehole stalls and the stall reads free of charge. And that doesn't mean it doesn't cost you money. It means there's an absence of charge in the thing because it doesn't f***ing work. Just about everyone who owns an electric vehicle in the United States that isn't a Tesla has had this experience. It is a joke. This is very bullish for Ford. It also just goes to show how far ahead of the so-called competition Ford are in the United States. Why was it Ford announcing this partnership as opposed to GM? Good question. This doesn't particularly move the needle for Tesla in terms of revenue and profitability, although I think over the long term, the profits that Tesla makes for a slight fee on top of the third-party charging access to other automotive manufacturers will be enough for Tesla to fund the growth, expansion, and continual upgrades of their charging network throughout the United States. Kind of like how previously the zero-emission vehicle credits other automotive manufacturers were buying from Tesla were funding Tesla's gigafactories. Fate loves irony. Now, there's a very, very important comment coming up, so please stick around because the big news isn't actually the supercharging announcement. It's what was hinted at by Elon on this discussion. If you own Tesla stock, pay very close attention.
You and I, what are your thoughts?
It's certainly super exciting to be in partnership with Ford. Have a tremendous amount of respect for Ford as a company and makes great vehicles. Yeah, this is it's something where we're super happy to support Ford vehicles with the Tesla supercharging network, and also provide API access. So like a Ford vehicle can charge at a Tesla supercharger using the Ford app seamlessly. Essentially, like the idea is that like we don't want the Tesla supercharger network to be like a walled garden. We want it to be something that is supportive of electrification and sustainable transport in general. So, and we're very, very much appreciative of Ford's interest in partnering on this front. So it is our intent to do everything possible to support Ford and have Ford be on an equal footing at Tesla superchargers.
Well, this is a really, really big deal for our customers because we have about 10,000 fast chargers now, but 12,000. We love the locations. We love the reliability, your routing software, the ease of use of the connector, the reliability of it. I think it's a pretty amazing what you and your team have done for the customers.
You know which US-based automotive CEO you're not going to hear praising Tesla legitimately, reasonably, accurately, and honestly praising Tesla for things they've done that deserve praise? No, neither do I. And do you know which current president of the United States, suffering from clear and obvious accelerating cognitive decline, will also refuse to acknowledge Tesla and what they've done? No, neither do I. Moving on.
The team's done a good job, and it's a pretty great connector. So, and if we, working with Ford and perhaps others, can make it the North American standard, I think the consumers will be all the better for it.
Yeah. I know you and I've been, talking about what we can do together to advance, the industry and the customer experience. But it became clear to me, I was on vacation with my family last year in Lake Tahoe. I was driving back, I think, to Monterey, and my kids kept looking at me and going, "Hey, Dad, there's another supercharger. Can we stop there? How about there? How about on the I-5, Dad?" I was like, "No, we have to go over here behind this other building." And so it kind of became obvious to me, the job your team had done and what it means for customers.
So this is extremely important for multiple reasons. We'll discuss them all. First of all, clearly, Jim Farley is willing to say things that are true, which makes him somewhat unique among CEOs of large US automotive manufacturers. But of course, I won't name names, because if I mention GM and Mary Bear Spa again, that'd just be too obvious, so I won't. I'm definitely just keeping it vague so you don't know who I'm referring to specifically. But the fact that Jim is honestly admitting that he's driving around with his family and his kids are pointing out Tesla superchargers, but they were probably also pointing out Tesla vehicles, but he's pointing out the charging networks, the great locations. Hey, Dad, why can't we charge at one of these? And Jim's like, yeah, no, we need to go to the back of nowhere and use one of these electrify my asshole chargers. The fact that Jim admits this shows he has integrity. He's being transparent. He's honest. He's willing to say things that are true. And he's just recognizing and praising Tesla. They've built a brilliant charging network, seamless across the United States. So props to Jim for his honesty, his candor, and saying things that are true.
absolutely. So, well, our goal really is to be helpful as possible in accelerating towards sustainable transport, that's also like why we open source our patents, and many of our designs are open sourced. So we're just glad to be as helpful as possible.
Let me know in the comments below if you were around back in 2014 when Tesla made this announcement of open sourcing their patents. A lot of people seem to be under the impression that Tesla's a big greedy corporation, blah, blah, blah. This was one of the biggest bullish signs that Tesla were confident in their ability to continue to innovate at a faster pace than the rest of the industry. They literally said, here are all of our patents. Use them as long as you do so in good faith. We won't sue you. Here's our technology. Just please make electric vehicles. We're f***ing begging you. This was almost a decade ago. Just imagine you had been Ford or GM or any of these companies and you actually realized what was going on. Or, oh shit, EVs are happening. Why would they open source their patents? I mean, hey, let's use some of their technology and get the ball rolling. Many Chinese companies have used Tesla's patents. This was such a bullish signal that Tesla was confident in their ability to continue to innovate at a faster pace than the rest of the industry. Here's our technology today. Here's our patents. Just go for it. Make some electric vehicles. We'll be fine. This was a hugely bullish signal as a soon-to-be Tesla stock investor. A lot of people just don't seem to get it, but Tesla is trying to do good. Of course, they need to remain in business to do good, therefore they have to print insane amounts of money, which they'll do. But their goal is literally per their mission statement, unlike most corporate wankery, oh yeah, our mission statement is who cares, right? Tesla actually means what they're saying. They really do want to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy, open sourcing patents, opening their charging network. Oh, and remember that big bombshell I said is coming soon? That ties into this point as well, so keep that in the back of your mind.
And I think I think you alluded to it, but we should mention that there will be an adapter in the interim. So I think we're aiming for that adapter to be in production early next year. I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's a really big deal because I mean we don't have as many EV customers as you do, but we still have plenty. And for them to be able to have this benefit early next year already and not have to like buy a new car is, I think, a real statement by you and the Tesla team, to be really thinking, prioritizing the customer's experience. That's really a big deal. And of course, we're totally committed to the NACS interface itself going forward.
That sounds great. Let's see, so Farzad, did you have a question?
Sure. Yeah. No, thank you for bringing me up. Hi, Elon. Hi, Jim. Congrats on the announcement. Jim, I just want to give you props. I think out of all the legacy automakers, I really like the leadership that you've sort of driven for Ford, having the guts and the bravery of, really allowing the public seeing the financials for all your business units. I think is quite a leadership standpoint that I think should be noticed by the rest of the industry. How do you view that decision within the context of sort of this decision here today? And what are some of the, I guess, challenges or things that you've been able to learn from going through this transition to sort of this next generation of Ford? And sort of just high level, how are you thinking about Ford where it stands today? I think it's just very impressive how you all decided to do that. I think it's really, really cool.
Well, I think, obviously Tesla, stormed through the train station like 300 kilometer per hour Shinkansen. So it's like, we're learning a lot. I'd say splitting out the business really has been a game changer for us because it's given us a lot. Like we really are focused on, like this decision, on trying to work on behalf of the customer. And maybe when it was not broken out, we didn't have that laser focus. I think some of the things that we learned, frankly, a lot of them from Elon and his team is, our industry is kind of obsessed with these huge batteries. And I think that's maybe not the right approach. We should make the battery as small as possible, actually, with a really competitive user experience range, but have like really great fast charging experience combined with that, so we don't have to be driving around, $20,000 of extra batteries for customers.
You have to respect Jim Farley's honesty. Again, he's just said that they were learning things from Tesla and Elon, which is true. Key among those insights, those lessons, you don't need a off gigantic battery if you've got a great charging network that can charge quickly. Of course, given that batteries are the limiting factor to scaling global EV production, the smaller the batteries in every vehicle, the better. As battery technology continues to improve, I personally believe it is unlikely we're going to see range for electric vehicles exceed much more than about 300 or so miles per vehicle. I think most likely there'll be a bell curve somewhere around that 250 to 350 mile range, and that'll be the majority of electric vehicle ranges. Of course, there'll be exceptions, but it doesn't make sense to be lugging around a gigantic battery if you don't need it. Better to have some of those cells in another vehicle. Don't tell that to GM and their Hummer EV.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think I've learned that, and also the embedded electrical architecture, fully updatable vehicle. Like, it's super hard what Tesla's done, and I totally respect them, to do that, to make a fully software updatable vehicle, and we're in the process of doing, but it's super hard.
It's super hard, yes. Well, I mean, Jim, we're happy to be helpful in other respects with, on the software front. There may be, some, something where we can be helpful there, in the same way that, like, maybe Android is, helpful to the phone industry as sort of a general standard. Like, we could potentially open source more code, and, we'd love to be helpful in any way that we can.
Yeah.
Were you listening? And can you read between the lines? Don't worry if you weren't listening and or you are illiterate. Let me explain. Elon Musk is hinting at providing licensing full self-driving software to Ford and obviously other automotive companies in the future. This has also been in my Tesla valuation model for a long ass time. My thesis is quite simple. Tesla has won the race to solve autonomy, and they will maintain an unassailable lead due to their data advantage. People don't get this. Many so-called experts still seem to think that every company that's attempting to solve autonomy will get there, even the idiots who are using HD pre-maps and LiDAR, which isn't generalized and won't scale. Here's what happens. At some point, companies realize, we need self-driving or we're not going to be in business. We can't solve self-driving. Tesla's already solved self-driving. If we want to stay in business, we're going to license self-driving from Tesla. That's what Elon's hinting at right now. He's already talked in the past about the fact that this might happen. And that was the hint. Guess what's going to be next? Ford will probably be the first US automotive manufacturer to announce that they're going to be licensing Tesla's FSD technology. Ford's got their Blues Cruise, whatever the they call it, I don't even know. It's garbage. I mean, look, they're trying their best, but do or do not. There is no try. Ford ain't going to solve autonomy. They may as well abandon this project and as soon as possible, partner with Tesla. How's that work? Like so. Tesla says, look, you need these cameras on the vehicle, put them there, we'll write some code to adjust our FSD software for the camera positioning and everything, just like we do with our different vehicle models. You can license it. I don't know what the agreement will be, but remember, this is pure software. Tesla's already written the code. They will have to spend some time with their engineers tweaking things for the Ford vehicle models, but Ford is going to start putting sensors on their vehicles to suit Tesla's FSD. You can count on it. They will then announce, or at the same time that they start putting the sensors on their vehicles, they will announce that they're partnering with Tesla and licensing FSD software. If you're curious about how much of a cut I think Tesla might take, head over to Patreon with the link in the comment. Have a look at my Tesla valuation model, only available to supporters at the investor level and above, and you can look at my assumptions, the cut, what percent does the third party take? What percent does Tesla get? And how much revenue does that bring to the bottom line? And spoiler alert, it's a lot. Now, I know I sound like an overconfident, hyperbolic, arrogant twat when I say this is going to happen before it's happened. For the record, I am arrogant, but it is going to happen. So what do? Put a pin in it. The important point about licensing FSD, as I've said, no one's catching Tesla. Some people don't see this as inevitable, and that's totally fine. And some people think God exists too. The thing that matters most with autonomy is safety. Capabilities drive safety. The more capable, the more data, in other words, that you fed into your system and trained, the more capable it becomes, the safer it becomes. And at that point in time, there'll be data, clear data, demonstrating Tesla's FSD software is X amount safer than a human driver. Not only that, but second place in terms of autonomy, we're so much less safe that consumers will have to make the choice. Do you want to drive in a vehicle in which you are, let's say, just arbitrarily 10 times more likely to be involved in a collision, to be killed, injured or permanently disabled if you choose the company who's supposedly got autonomous software, but the data shows it's 10 times less safe than Tesla's autonomy? Or do you want to keep yourself and your family safe? Now, obviously, there's people that ride motorbikes, so not everyone cares about safety. But those that do, it's going to be a pretty easy choice. So my suspicion is that Tesla is going to license their FSD software long-term to many automotive manufacturers. There's also a strong possibility they may actually license their entire OS. Just reskin it, have a lot of the same functionality. As I've said in the past, in fact, you guys can probably run an AI now to search my YouTube transcripts. Search for this, window dresser, window dressing, because I've said in the past, years ago, I suspect in the future, many automotive manufacturers will be glorified window dressers. What do I mean? They're going to slap a Ford logo on their car, but inside, it's running Tesla's FSD software. It may even have some Tesla technology, powertrain, motor, battery, But the main thing, these companies in the future, legacy automotive manufacturers, their best chance of surviving, although it's still pretty slim, is to rely upon the brand they've built over the past X amount of decades, window dress their vehicles, but run them on Tesla technology. In particular, Tesla software. In particular, the FSD software. So again, this is really important. Read between the lines. Look at the implications financially if you're a Tesla stock investor. They're huge. And remember, this is software. After a few tweaks from engineers in terms of camera positioning on different vehicles, that's it. You just deploy the software, and Tesla, whatever their cut is going to be enormous. It's basically pure profit. Oh, but remember, Tesla is just a car company and should be valued just like a car company, because the experts told me, and they're always right because they're experts.
I think that's super important. It shouldn't stop now. I'm actually really interested, Elon, in your experience so far on Corpus Christi and processing raw materials. It seems like you're really learning a lot.
Yeah, I mean, our actual goal is to do the least amount possible, but then we end up hitting these choke points, or we anticipate hitting choke points. A lot of the vertical integration is really out of necessity. And if we find that there are suppliers that are solving the problem, and there's good visibility into the future output roadmap, then there may be cases where we would redirect those resources from what they're doing to something else, because we got a triage list of problems a mile long. So, we did see a pretty serious issue with lithium refining. There's a lot of lithium ore in the world. Like when one looks at the sort of lithium reserves, that's actually a tiny fraction of the amount of lithium that is. But the processing of lithium, it seems to be a significant choke point. So that's the reason for lithium refinery that we just broke ground on in Corpus Christi, and then we've got a cathode refinery that's on the same piece of land as our factory in Austin. That's for a nickel-based cathode, and then we're just trying to figure out, like, man, do we need to do the anode too? Hopefully not. But if someone else could please do that, that would be awesome. Synthetic graphite. There's a big market for it. I recommend entrepreneurs. I see so many entrepreneurs, like, in Silicon Valley doing like a software startup, or sort of chasing the latest thing, but not enough of the talent in North America, I think, goes into heavy industry. And the crazy thing is, like, the opportunity in heavy industry is tremendous. So I just would really like to encourage entrepreneurs to think about things that don't involve, an app on a phone, basically. Apps on a phone, we need them, but I just think we have an over allocation of talent towards apps on phones.
Coming from Ford, I totally agree with you. Totally agree.
It is super hard making cars.
Well, it's super hard making embedded electrical architectures too. Right back at you.
Definitely. And it's like I guess California gets a lot of flack, but I have to say, like, the Tesla and SpaceX teams in California work like hell. We run the Fremont plant 24/7 in the Bay Area, and the output at sort of on a Sunday morning is about the same as on a Monday afternoon. And then I was like, well, do we have quality issues maybe that are differential? Because, like, who really wants to work at 4 a.m. on a Sunday?
You're right,
but actually, no, it's slightly counterintuitive. We actually, look, quality is always a challenge. It's always a challenge. But actually, the quality is slightly worse on a Monday than it is on a Sunday night shift, which is counterintuitive.
Oh my God, that's interesting.
It is.
So as you can clearly see, Tesla has a severe demand problem, and that's why they're only running their Fremont factory 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Makes total sense. Demand problem, as you can see.
You have a massive dealer network throughout the country. So that entire shift with the fact that, at the end of the day, if we're just being objective, your customer, or one of your customers, is the dealer still. And of course, the dealer network. And, how do you reconcile all of that?
I think when you look at the net promoter score of people who buy vehicles, they really want transparency in the pricing.
Translation: Generally speaking, most mentally healthy human beings don't like the experience of heading into a car dealership, not knowing how much they're going to be paying for a vehicle, and then having to negotiate with a car salesperson, and depending on how capable a negotiator they are and whether or not they understand that the strongest negotiating position is being able to walk away and mean it. Most people heading into a car dealership are not in that situation. They really want to buy a car that day, and they buy a car that day, and the car dealers know, so they end up paying more than they needed to. Unless you have a fetish for getting f***ed without consent, most people don't enjoy the experience of not knowing what they're going to be paying for a vehicle. Jim's hit on a very important point. Now, Jim's in a tough situation here because here's the truth. Car dealerships are going away. They've been disrupted. They're going the way of the ICE business. Jim probably can't say that. And I think Jim's best plan is going to be offer to buy out car dealerships and just make them disappear, buy out the franchises who want to bail. Alternatively, if they're not willing to bail, force them to massively upgrade and change things to become a little bit more of a showroom and or service center, although very little servicing is required for electric vehicles, and leave it at that. Props to Jim for being as honest as he can in answering this question. Tesla has disrupted the car dealership model. They sell direct to consumers with fixed pricing. Go onto their website, order a vehicle remotely, the end.
So early next year, we're going to be going to non-negotiated pricing, and more people want to do business remotely. So we want to offer that.
If we read between the lines, it's quite clear. Ford is moving to fixed pricing, and more importantly, they're going to be allowing customers to order Ford vehicles directly online, just like Tesla, as in order remotely. It's about time. Jim, it's 2023. By the way, I get it. Legacy automotive companies are They're for so many different reasons, but one of them is the existing dealership networks. I can make an entire 2-hour-long video on that cluster, but we won't go there. The long story short, dealers are going away. It's going to be painful. It's going to be difficult, but it's the right thing to do for customers. Rest in peace, car dealerships. It has been good while it lasted, but the end is nigh.
But, when you get an accident or you have questions, people are going to want to talk to someone. So I think there's an answer out there. If I look at markets like Norway that are very, that have really adopted electrification, there's some combination that I think we're moving to that is good for the customer. And I don't think it's at odds with, the system that's been there for 120 years. But of course, for like commercial vehicles, it's a little different. That network has to do a lot of repair of vehicles. They're heavily used. And so, physical service is like super important for commercial customers. But I think we're moving to a different experience. And that will be, from my experience, that will be a good thing.
Rest in peace, car dealerships. A few of them will still exist in the future, but they'll no longer be selling vehicles to customers, but instead handling inquiries, maybe giving test drives, possibly doing a little bit of servicing as necessary. And now over to some coverage in the mainstream finance media regarding this announcement.
This one was with Ford Motor CEO Jim Farley, which is pretty incredible if you think about it, given that Ford's Mustang Mach-E and the electric F-150 and other cars compete directly with Tesla. So why were the two together? Phil LeBeau knows, and he joins us now. Phil.
Brian, this is all about a new electric partnership, if you will, between Ford and Tesla. And it's really about charging and the charging network. Here's what was announced between Jim Farley and Elon Musk on the Twitter Spaces late this afternoon. Ford EV owners will get access to Tesla's Superchargers in North America, about 12,000, a little over 12,000 of them. That's about half of the Tesla Superchargers in the US and Canada. The Ford second generation EVs, the ones that are going to start coming out around 2025, they will also have the Tesla protocol, the NACS charging standard.
But just in case it isn't clear, Ford's next generation vehicles, all of their electric vehicles will be using the Tesla charging standard. Tesla is now moving the entire industry in this direction. Oh, by the way, same shit going to happen with the vehicle voltage, but we'll save that for another video. Any automotive manufacturer with half a fucking brain cell collectively between the executives will also follow suit. Tesla already has the best charging network. They've already partnered with Ford. They've already told people they'll open up their charging network to other partners. If these companies don't one after another immediately announce that they're also going to be adopting Tesla's charging standard, there is no greater admission of incompetence, idiocy, or sheer blindness. Ford is a leading indicator. Pay close attention, because the order that companies come out of the woodwork and say, yep, we've decided to partner with Tesla, we'll have access to their charging network. Oh, and by the way, all of our future vehicles will be using their charging standard as well. The order these companies come out and say this Is the order they're least likely to go bankrupt? Ford, definitely the least likely US automotive manufacturer to go bankrupt, although they still may. The longer it takes for other US-based automotive manufacturers, and in fact global automotive manufacturers, to do likewise, the more likely they are to be going out of business, although the truth is, it's too late for most of them anyway. And I'm serious about this. This is not hyperbole. Just wait for these announcements. You can write a list down. Who announced it first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth? Flip that upside down and you've got a list of the first bankruptcy, the second, third, fourth, and fifth in almost perfect order.
Look, if you are Ford, this is a smart move.
Phil LeBeau is right. This really is a smart move, although I probably wouldn't describe it as a smart move, but the only rational move. Any other move is moronic. So I give Ford credit, but I mean, like I said, if these automotive executives have half a f***ing brain cell between them collectively, they'll all do the same thing. It's not smart. It's obvious and necessary.
Why? The Tesla Supercharger network is clearly the leader when it comes to public charging. Yes, there are other networks that are out there, but they are riddled with complaints about A, they're hard to find in many cases, or B, a lot of the charging stations may not work as fast as they promise. They may not work at all. There are more than a few stories about people who are on long road trips and they're frustrated with the lack of public charging. You don't hear those complaints quite to the same degree, Brian, about the Tesla Supercharger network. Look, you can make a lot of criticisms about Tesla. You cannot criticize the Supercharger network when you compare it with everything else that is out there. So for Jim Farley, good on him to realize, look, these guys have built a better mousetrap. Why are we kicking ourselves or trying to reinvent the wheel here? Let's just go with them and give our people the option for a lot more ways to publicly charge.
Remember the road trip I did a year and a half ago from Vegas to San Francisco? It was miserable to talk about. Half the chargers I found didn't work, Phil. I understand why Ford won. If I'm Ford, I'm feeling like I just won the lottery here. What I don't understand is why Tesla and Musk would do it. What are they getting out of this? Ford's got to have a win.
Remember,
if one is ever in doubt as to why Tesla has done anything, refer to their mission statement: to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy, not to stifle it, not to slow things down, not to destroy their competitors, not to create walled gardens. Their mission isn't to accelerate Tesla's growth, it's to accelerate the world's transition, and this obviously helps. If every automotive company on the planet beside Tesla goes bankrupt, that doesn't help accelerate EVs, does it? Now, in fairness, Tesla obviously aren't going to do this to their detriment. They'll make a small profit on the third-party supercharging. It'll obviously help people see Teslas all around the superchargers. It's not bad for Tesla, although some Tesla customers are going to get a little bit butthurt if they ever see a Ford charging and they can't charge. Deal with it, bitches. But it's important to understand, this is really Tesla doing an act of philanthropy to help, again, refer to their mission.
this is a great way for you to say, we are the kings of the hill. And so what if there's an F-150 Lightning charging up at a Tesla Supercharger location in the future? Those F-150 Lightning folks are going to have to look at a lot of Teslas around them.
That's it.
It is great exposure. And look, if you're Elon Musk, this is a no-brainer deal. And for Jim Farley, it's a smart move.
Accurate. And now, everybody's favorite not method actor, very serious person who publishes very legitimate research from a very legitimate research firm and believes everything he says. Gordon the Class Clown Johnson here to explain why this is a really terrible day for Tesla.
All right, let's dive further into this. With us tonight, Mark Fields, former president and CEO of Ford, and a CNBC contributor, and Gordon Johnson, founder and CEO of GLJ Research. Mark, you heard the conversation. I mean, this has got to be a huge win for Ford because the charging network is the gas station chain of the EV. And now you can just go to somebody else's chain.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of positives in this for Ford. I mean, the bottom line, Brian, is Ford has introduced a number of EV products into the marketplace. They have more coming. And they're saying, listen, one of the biggest obstacles for consumers is charging stations. They want to feel comfortable that they can charge anywhere, just like they can fill up at a gas station today. So for Ford, they get more locations. And as Phil just mentioned, you know, the existing charging non-Tesla network, it has real reliability problems. Chargers being down.
It's awful. It's awful. I've done a number of road trips. It's terrible. I'll tweet out my segment again later on after the show.
So just take a moment. CNBS anchor. He's taken multiple road trips literally as part of his job at CNBS. Hey, what's it like to do a road trip in an electric vehicle that's not a Tesla? How many times did he say terrible, terrible, terrible? He's not wrong. This is the point. This is why I said earlier, automotive manufacturers who have any fucking sense will immediately be banging on Tesla's door. Although, if they had any sense, they would have done this years ago. But anyway, Brian there could not emphasize how bad the Electrify My Asshole network is as a customer.
So it just takes away another one of the obstacles. So for Ford, I think this is a big win. And as Phil said, for Tesla, it reinforces them as the leader. They get access to the IRA funding to build out the charging network and get incentives from the government. Yeah. Listen, this gives them some kind of incremental revenue or profit because they're not doing this just to be nice guys.
No, and that's what you heard my questions, Gordon. I was a little bit confused by because it's like Ford, as big as it is, Tesla they're the big dogs in EVs. Of course, Ford's going to sell this as a win because they're partnering up. But I do worry. The first thing I'm thinking of is if I'm a Tesla owner and I'm rolling up, I-94 to Kenosha from Chicago, and I go to the Supercharger there, and there's 5 Fords blocking me out, and now I've got to wait. I'm going to be ticked off. Do they make any money off the charging? Because it is illegal to sell electricity. They just sell time, I believe.
Yeah, that's a great point, Brian. Thanks for having me. The positives here for Tesla are clear. The positives are the taxpayer is funding this. But this isn't new. We knew that as part of them getting EV credits, they were going to have to open up their charging network. So this isn't new. The negatives, though, and I know you're going to say, of course, you're going to say this, but...
So I've got to give credit to Gordon here. He's acknowledged that he's going to get called out for being negative on this announcement, of course, because that's what he does, because he's playing a Tesla bear. Wait, I didn't say that out loud. I mean, he's always bearish, not because he's playing a character and selling research to dumb basement dollars who think Tesla's actually going bankrupt. Got a captive audience, because that would be too easy, and he would never do that. It's legitimate research, and he believes everything he says, as I mentioned earlier. But credit where it's due. Gordon has self-awareness, and he knows that he's going to get called out for always being negative, no matter what it is. I can't wait when Tesla's doing 20 million vehicles per year. Gordon's still out there saying this is a disaster. You know what it'll be then? They can't possibly keep growing now because they've already reached 20 million vehicles a year. The growth story is finally over. Tesla stock's going lower.
Far outweigh the positives. Let me explain. One of the key hurdles for buying an EV car is range anxiety. And now that you can buy a Ford car and have access to Tesla's network, that literally gets rid of one of the only moats that Tesla had left. Keep in mind, Consumer Reports ranks Tesla's cars with respect to reliability near dead last. J.D. Power ranks them last in reliability. And what question mark, the similar outfit in the UK ranks their cars last. Other cars have better interior, equal or similar real-world range, and better serviceability. So the fact that Tesla, in our view, this is being forced by the U.S. government, is being forced to open up their supercharging network, I think is a negative, because now you're going to be less inclined to buy that Tesla car, and you'll go buy that Mach-E, which better interior, similar, better range, etc. So I think this is overall a negative for Tesla. Very good for Ford.
Listen, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I will say it. I am not a fan of the Mach-E styling. I think it looks kind of like a gremlin and a Kia had a child.
Holy shit, dude. Shots fired. Credit to Brian here for his extreme honesty. Now, I'm not a big fan of the styling of the Mach-E either. Then again, I think most cars ever produced look butt-ass f***ing ugly. Have you seen my f***ing head, my haircut? I'm not exactly one to judge based on aesthetics. However, it's interesting to see that Brian is being really honest about Ford right now. I guess he hasn't received the memo that his network is supposed to hate Tesla, and therefore he's supposed to hate Tesla, and therefore he can do nothing but praise Tesla's so-called competition. The ones who line the pockets of the network on which they advertise relentlessly. Of course, that would never influence any of the content on CNBS. The fact that their largest advertisers are automotive companies, that would never happen. I'm just saying, hypothetically, in a different universe, it could influence some of the opinions some of the folks have. So if that were true, which it's not, but if it were true, I admire the fact that Brian's out there saying that the Mach-E looks like a pile of excrement and that the supposed competing charging network, Electrify My Asshole, sucks shit.
That said, do you think this will pop Ford's EV sales, to Gordon's point?
Well, I think on balance, it's a positive, right? Because you're taking away, one of the obstacles beyond just introducing the product. The other obstacles for adoption of EV are cost, which is going to be solved over time, and then just getting customers comfortable that they can charge wherever they want, just like they fill up at the gas station today. So I think this is a net positive.
Yeah.
To Gordon's point, I think, listen, if you're in a Cybertruck and you're waiting behind an F-150 or a Ford E-Transit, that's not going to be good for you. But keep in mind, this announcement was only for 50% of the Tesla supercharging stations. And Tesla has a lot of data on those high volume stations. So I'm sure they're keeping those,
It won't be the one off I-94, right, in the Mars Cheese Castle in Kenosha. It's going to be like, oh, you can use our charging network in Pollock, South Dakota.
This is actually a fair point. Half the network, Tesla obviously has the data. They know which chargers are busiest, which are the prime locations. They're not trying to Ford in this agreement. But equally, Tesla doesn't want to their own customers too hard either. So for Ford, it's way better than nothing. I mean, 12,000 plus chargers is a lot. But if you want the ultra premium charging experience, you're still going to have to use a Tesla, at least for now.
Just under the North Dakota border. That one's wide open for you guys. Listen, we'll see how it goes. It's an interesting move. Big win. I can't see it as a non-win for Ford.
Huge win for Ford, and more importantly for Ford's customers. Ford are clearly the least likely US automotive manufacturer to go bankrupt this decade. Doesn't mean they're going to survive, just least likely to go bankrupt. Stay tuned for their next announcement that they'll be licensing Tesla's FSD software coming soon. You want to know exactly when I think this first happens? Check out my Tesla valuation model. I've got the date in there. If you want to see all the assumptions in my valuation model, click the link in the pinned comment, join Patreon, and make sure you're at the investor level and above so you've got access to the valuation model. Or don't. I mean, you can always do the numbers yourself and use your own assumptions. That's what I did. Congratulations and big props to Jim Farley for having the courage and the leadership to say what's true and to do what's necessary. Unfortunately, this makes him rather unique among most automotive CEOs. If I didn't know any better, I think Jim was thinking clearly, full of energy, and really ready to make this EV transition happen. Obviously, he's been watching my videos and it's recently started taking Athletic Greens AG1. Athletic Greens AG1 has given me a massive, meaningful boost in energy, allowing me to do a lot more every day, including using my brain more and using my body more. I highly recommend you guys and girls check it out. Athletic Greens AG1 is an excellent way to fill in nutritional gaps. It's got 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients, plus prebiotics and probiotics and digestive enzymes and adaptogens to help you deal with stress. Plus, if you click the link in the pinned comment or head to athleticgreens.com/SMR, you can get yourself a 1-year free supply of vitamin D3 and K2. But don't take my word for it. Here's what some of you guys and girls have to say. AG1 has changed my life. I was, as you described, treating myself like a circus, ate like trash, rarely exercised, used alcohol as a stress crutch, cannabis also. AG1 is what gave me the kick in the ass, got me back to the gym, motivated me to do more for myself, family, my business, etc. Keep doing what you do. Now, I know there's some skeptics, the same kind of people who think Elon Musk is a fraud, reading this going, what do you thought? There's no way that's possible, bro. It must be a placebo effect. Believe it or not, this is a recurring theme. If you give your body everything it needs to feel and perform its best, including having a lot more energy, you'll need ways to use that energy. For me personally, that includes more exercise, moving my body more social activity, and more cognitively demanding tasks, including producing a ton of exclusive content over on Twitter and on Patreon, plus my daily YouTube uploads. The proof's in the pudding. On to another testimonial from a viewer of this channel. SMR, you asked me to provide feedback on AG1. Here it is. It has helped with mental acuity, stamina, and intestinal waste management. Can't read between the lines. Certainly helps with regularity and digestion. That's what the digestive enzymes are for. It has also dramatically reduced my cravings for sugar. You guys need to stop eating sugar. It's fucking poison. I'm 50, 5'9", and overweight, aka a fat motherfucker. I think that's a technical term for overweight, isn't it? Is it fat motherfucker or obese? I can't remember. I average 100 hours a week in the West Texas oil fields as a safety supervisor. Jesus Christ, dude. No wonder you're struggling to keep your weight under control. 100 hours a week. Brutal. It has helped me lose weight. It is not an appetite suppressant. It can help fat people suppress cravings, and motivation to be healthier is critical for changing your diet. Love you, brother. Again, this is a great point and something people really don't seem to grasp. If you have more energy, everything becomes easier. It's like turning on easy mode for life. A few years ago, before I was taking AG1, my health was trash. I was struggling to get through the day, had afternoon fatigue. The last thing I wanted to do was either use my brain or move my body. Didn't have the energy. Now, my biggest struggle every day is figuring out ways to use that energy. I'm exercising way more, doing a lot more with my friends and family, and of course, my work output has increased substantially. And you can fact check me. Check out the average length of my videos I was posting to YouTube 3 years ago. Need I say more? And one final testimonial. Love this one. Okay, here's the deal for me with this AG1 shit. I'm 41 years old and not the type to eat, drink, smoke, or sleep healthy, so I was skeptical. That being said, here's what I experienced. Day 1, meh. Day 2, afternoon fatigue was about 45 minutes late. Day 3, 0 afternoon fatigue. Day 4, 0 afternoon fatigue plus extra energy. Day 5, again, 0 afternoon fatigue plus energy, wondering, what the fuck, really? See, this is the thing, right? The results for many people are just almost too good to be true. This is the same experience I had. My afternoon fatigue just vanished out of nowhere. I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Why am I not tired in the afternoons anymore? Surely, it's not that AG1 is it? Turns out it was. Day 6 and 7, same thing. Day 8, same thing. Plus, I had the want to get things done around the house that I normally would slack off and not get done. Again, the point, extra energy, you'll need to use it, you'll find ways to use it. Day 9, 10, and 11, and today is day 12. I fucking love it. So however you managed to get me to buy it, I'm so glad you did. Thank you so much, SMR. It really changed me so far. Guys, this shit really works. Just try it. By the way, this is the reason I continue to relentlessly promote AG1. A lot of people get real fucking mad in the comments. Oh my God, Snake Oil Salmon's sold out. Oh my God, he's a scammer. This is fraud. But constantly, I'm pretty sure everyone making these comments is also currently short Tesla stock. I'm not particularly concerned about people having a negative perception, those folks suffering from small brain syndrome, still living in my bum's basement syndrome, etc., writing mean comments, claiming AG1's a scam or it doesn't work. I mean, bro, when I get feedback like this is what keeps me going. And remember, there is a 90-day money-back guarantee. There's nothing to lose here. Just try this stuff for a month, and if you don't get these results, get your money back. See, it's a literal no-brainer. It's an IQ test at this point in time. Testimonial after testimonial after testimonial like this. Get your money back if it doesn't work. Just try it for a month, and if it doesn't work, get your money back. Today's the day. It's finally time. Be like this guy who was a massive skeptic, but finally, after 1,000 promotions in a row, caved in, tried AG1, and has results like this. Head to athleticgreens.com/SMR or click the link at the pinned comment, and please, let me know how you're feeling in a few weeks' time. Now, if you'll excuse me, time to put my extra energy to good use. I'll be recording some more exclusive content for Patreon and my Twitter subscribers. So click the links in the pinned comment. See you over on Twitter and or Patreon, and don't forget to grab your AG1. Love ya.